Hey fans, thanks for watching. Stick around for the end of the video where I will debut my very first solo 48-hour film festival entry, Human 2020 The Mandemic. Hey fans, I'm Ronald James Hoff Jr. You might remember me from such classics as Walking Out of a Movie or Henchman in Eagleheart, starring Chris Elliott, only on Adult Swim. Since this pandemic started, my manager has been saying,
"Now, Ron, there are so many actors out there that don't have access to everything you have."
I have everything except for one thing, making content. So people will hire me as an actor. Yay. Hey fans, welcome to another episode of Content. Of course, my name is Ronald James Hoff Jr. And today we're going to do something a little different. I wanted to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes of content and a little history of my ability to cut and make videos. So this all started a long time ago. I used to work for a church in Akron, First Grace United Church of Christ, and I was in their choir, and I was their webmaster, and I created PowerPoints and played drums and wore a lot of hats for that place. Initially, it started out with a vocal scholarship because I was a vocal major at the University of Akron. So, long story short, there was a friend, two friends who were wanting to fly to the Synoid that was going on in Hartford, Connecticut. And so what I did to promote them, I created a series of videos using iMovie, a very long time ago. And that's when the church hired me to create videos showcasing all of the different projects that the church did. At the time, this was just before the housing crisis. The church had $1 million budget, so we had like a food pantry and an after-school program and a bunch of other programs that I filmed and showcased for the congregation, and created a bunch of other videos. Like I created a Monday Thursday video, and that's when I really got my feet wet with editing. And then fast forward, I moved to California to become an actor, and when I first landed, I took a bunch of headshots with this kind of a crummy camera that I had, and then the merger between SAG and AFTRA happened. I was working a couple times a month, which at the time was a lot. If you got a gig once a month, you were lucky, but 1 or 2 gigs was enough to pay for my rent and food and all that other stuff. So it's kind of lucrative. But at the time, the bottom fell out because it was like 80,000 SAG members could now work AFTRA jobs. And so I went like 3 or 4 months without working. So I ended up going back into electronics. And when I did that, I bought this nifty little camera. And I was taking acting classes. And so my wonderful acting coach, Troy Skinner, suggested that I start making my own content. So during that time, when I was doing background stuff, I created this idea of doing a help video for background artists, because going through the months and months and months of working in background, and I seeing all the stupid things that people were doing that they really shouldn't be doing, which gave background actors a bad name. So I created Background 101, the do's and don'ts of working in the industry. And this was the first time I started using green screens, and I built myself a teleprompter, designed and built a teleprompter. I was using my iPhone or my iPad as a monitor, and that's when I started doing teleprompter work and things like that. Actually, before that, my friend who I did the video promotion for it, First Grace. He had got into a car accident and passed away, Ryan Matthews. And I created a memorial video remotely while I was in California because I couldn't go to the service in Ohio. So I created this memorial to Ryan, which usually is played on the anniversary of his death every year. So anyways, then I did the Background 101, and I was at that time I was learning how to cut on Final Cut, and this was the Final Cut 7 version. And before that, I was using like Final Cut Express, but Final Cut 7 was pretty good, decent for its era. Over the years, I've developed this system of step by step of how I will create a video. It always starts with writing it, and then figuring out what shots I'm going to use. Most of the time, I do stationary stuff because I don't have a camera operator, and I've learned a long time ago you can't really trust anyone to show up. Even if you pay them, they still sometimes won't show up. So I've been doing many videos over the years. Well, there's a bunch of them. I did a Darth Lumberg cute little video. I did a short for my friend at the time. I did Taxi Mom, which I wrote and shot and edited. I wasn't in it. I mean, I was in it as a voice. And I did He-Man and the Greatest American Hero, which you'll be seeing. I did a Small Talk with Hunter, which is one of my characters that I did for Background 101. Did Bug Love, which is a cute little 1-minute video. I did a fight scene called 2 minutes left before, I think it was 2 minutes left before I die or something like that. I need 2 minutes left or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it's called. And then I did Meanwhile in America. And of course I did an Ice Bucket Challenge, which I did a cool little effect with that. And what else did I do? And then now during all of this, I met my good friend and manager, Zach. And he did a 48-hour film festival, which is how we met. We met at like a mixer, and I gave him my resume, and he basically hired me brought me on because I had sound recording equipment, but I had like studio stuff. I didn't have anything portable. So I ended up running sound, and I had one little bit in the 48-hour film festival. So that was the first 48-hour film festival I ever did. Then a couple years later, I did a second one with him called How to Crush Grapes. And so I'm saying all of this because I wanted to talk about the very first solo 48-hour film festival that I did just this last weekend for the film festival called No Sleep Till Film Fest. It's the Russo brothers' first time hosting a film festival. So I did that last weekend and busted my ass, and I did everything on my own like I normally do, so I was kind of used to that. But I wanted to talk about a little bit about what goes on with that type of project. So of course, it always starts with getting the information about what the competition is about, and they call that a prompt, or they call that the elements. Most 48-hour film festivals, they'll have like a line that everyone has to say. They'll have a prop. They'll have and then usually you'll have to pick like a genre out of a hat, or it's selected for you. This one was a lot different. It was basically just doing something that's out of the ordinary, that is not what was not really reality kind of a thing. So I came up with this idea, and at the end of this video, if you stay tuned, I'm going to share that film. It's supposed to be under 3 minutes, not counting the credits, which are 15 seconds. So I got the prompt, and then Friday night I I wrote it, and it's basically an interview. This virus, polio, interviews 2 other viruses, smallpox and rabies. It's kind of set up like a Zoom call, because one of the things that they really wanted us to do is respect what's going on with COVID-19 and social distancing and all that fun stuff. So it made perfect sense for me to just do it all on my own. This was my setup and teleprompter, and this was the first time I used my blue screen. Now, this week I was going to do my content episode was going to be about how I built a automated roll drop for my green and blue screen, but I'm going to end up doing that next week because I wanted to talk about this. Initially, I have different looks for the different characters, and basically it's just my beard and some hats and stuff like that. Just like what I did with Background 101, I start with the character that has the most facial hair, and then I work my way backwards from there. So the second guy I shaved down, and then the third guy I shaved off completely. So, and I've done other videos, like I did Tim and Tom do Titanic, but it's a video that's kind of at the time it was appropriate, sort of, but nowadays with the new Me Too movement and culture of sexism and stuff like that, looking back, it's kind of misogynistic and it's quite vulgar. A story about two twins. One guy's in prison and the other guy's out of prison, and they sit across from a table and discuss movies. And it was one of those ideas that I had in creating content for my reel and just to show my abilities, which is the whole reason I do all of this crap. I honestly am getting tired of setting up cameras and setting up monitors and setting up sound and making sure everything's working.
Oh, you stopped! You stopped!
And then going into, I don't mind editing. Editing's kind of fun, but after a while it gets tiring and exhausting, actually. Anyways, with Tim and Tom do Titanic, I had to make sure that it looked realistic while one person was sitting and listening while the other person was talking. So there's a lot of this, I say my line, and as I'm imagining them saying their line, and usually I'll have my teleprompter, which kind of helps me pace a lot of those things. So with this one was no exception. I had to make sure that, well, first of all, I had to make sure everything was down in less than 30 minutes or 3 minutes. And the other thing was I had to make sure that it looked realistic when all three characters are on the screen, that they're all listening and waiting their turn to speak and having it look natural. So fortunately, I have some experience in that. And just like any of these other projects, sometimes I will do something new to help. Like what was new in this one and I normally don't do it when I'm on a tight schedule, like a 48-hour film festival. I used a new microphone, and this microphone I have used before, but not as much as this, and I had forgotten how much hissing that microphone creates. So in post, I was almost not able to upload the film in time from the deadline because I had a heck of a time dealing with the hiss. And now I'm running Final Cut 10 or Final Cut Pro X, and it's way, way better than Final Cut 7. The one thing that's great about it is that it does background rendering. So that was the biggest issue with when I did Background 101, the do's and don'ts of working in the industry. First of all, I used a older Mac. I have a brand new Mac now. So my old Mac is only a quad core 2. And the thing about Final Cut 7 is you make changes for like compositing. And compositing is where you add the background to a blue screen. That takes time to render. And for my old machine and the old software, I'd make a change and then I'd have to wait for it to render before it would play. The new Final Cut will play it and do the render in the background, so I can make changes and still see while it's rendering. So it'll play the changes that I made, even though it's not fully rendered yet. It still allows me to see it, so I can make subtle changes, and then the render goes on in the background. So when I did Background 101, it took the final render, it took about 20 hours, 25 hours, 26 hours for the computer just rendering alone. And now the video is about 25 minutes long, 26 minutes, something like that. And so that render took forever. And anytime I would make a change, because compositing with Final Cut 7 is not as automatic as compositing for Final Cut 10. So I would make subtle changes, like making sure that you didn't see the background around the edges. And all of this is self-taught, so I don't know all the technical terms for it. And of course, I never had a key light, which is always the key light is the light that's above you that shines down, and it creates a nice defined edge that the software can then pick up on. But Final Cut 7 or Final Cut 10 does a really good job of that without necessarily needing a key light. And I'm going to build a key light somewhere down the road, but I just haven't done it yet. So as far as rendering, it was easy for this because it's something that I had done before, but with the microphone is something that I added, and it was one of those rookie mistakes. Especially when you're on a deadline, you never want to add an element because, of course, that will take extra time, and especially with 48-hour film festival stuff, you don't have the time that you think you do. I finished filming on Saturday, and I spent what I thought was going to be about a 4 to 6 hour edit. It took about 9 hours, almost 10 hours for me to edit this down, and a couple hours of that was just wasted on doing audio correction stuff that I've never done before, at least with Final Cut X. So what I should have done, I didn't do, and I'm not even going to get into those details. So I wanted to share all of this behind the scenes stuff because a lot of effort goes into making these videos, and a lot of people think it's easy, and it kind of is once you know what you're doing. But I've had years and years and years and years of experience making all of these different videos. And it started with wanting to learn a little bit about iMovie and helping a couple friends. And that has given me so much more experience. And as my manager says, it gives me an edge of being able to do this stuff because I have all this equipment. And anytime I want, I can just bust out my cameras. I got a couple GoPros. I've got this Canon. This is a T2i, by the way. It's old, but it suits me just fine for what I need. If I need to do anything higher than 1080, my GoPros will do 2K at like 60 frame or 30 frames. And if I wanted to do 4K and I don't move around too much, it will do 4K at 12 frames a second. So I just wanted to share all of that, and so look forward to, I don't know if you guys have noticed, whoever's actually following me, I'm sharing old videos every day, with the exception of Thursday, which is when content comes out. I just got finished sharing my Surviving COVID-19 episodes that I shot this time last year when the pandemic started. Zach has insisted for me to continue to generate my own content, and there's plenty of wonderful reasons why, mainly to show off what I can do. And if there's ever an audition situation or a submission situation where I need to show something that I've done, I have quite an arsenal, especially like I can see myself doing like hosting, like the plumbing episode that I did last week or the week before. It has like over 4,000 views. Thank you so much, by the way. So I see myself doing like maybe home improvement shows or hosting of some sort with giving information, and of course I have plenty of teleprompter experience. So I've built teleprompters and used to sell them. So if anybody is interested in a teleprompter, I do have an extra one lying around. That works very, very well. It doesn't have the teleprompter glass, but the glass you can buy separately. When I bought mine, it was about $60 for an 8x10 piece of glass, and it's the teleprompter glass, which is different from like a pane glass. But you can spend like $7 on a piece of pane glass from Home Depot. Just the difference is the reflection from the from the monitor, you'll see the reflection off the front of the glass and the back of the glass, so it's kind of blurry. But it still works, especially for someone who is just wanting a basic teleprompter. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about. So thank you so much for watching. Now here is the premiere of my solo film festival entry for the No Sleep Till Film Fest. This film is called Human 2020, The Mandemic. Enjoy.
Human 2020, The Mandemic.
Tom, I'm deep in the trenches of yet another attack of our very existence. The Human 2020 threat is ever present and ever relentless in its crusade to suck the very essence out of our RNA. But some in our biome are quick to say this is all a hoax, or a means to control the different viruses here that are just trying to alter cells and reproduce by means of infiltration. And Human 2020 is as much of a threat as any bacteria floating around. Because of the very late response by this mandemic by President Herpes, the spread is rampant and pedantic. Finally, as of yesterday, there's been a stay where you are order. Because of this, we can't do virus-to-virus interviews until the order has been lifted. Thanks to the new biotech company that literally no one ever heard of the day before yesterday, we can now communicate where we are. Thanks, Doom, for the foresight to have this tech ready just in time for Human 2020 to invade our very way of life. Seems pretty convenient to me, like they knew this invasion of these long pork mother... Yes, Tom, I'm here with a virus who has real concerns for our future. Please welcome smallpox.
Thank you for having me. I'm pretty excited to be here to share what I think most of us viruses are thinking and how frustrated many of us are because of the actions of some other viruses.
Thanks for being here. My first question is, how have you been holding up with everything going on?
Well, for many years I've been dormant, but recently I've been casually infecting like many of us, and human hasn't been much of a threat. But this new Human 2020 variant has given me great concern. I have very old strains I look after, so it's hard to go out and get the resources to care for them. I mean, I wear protection, but when I do go out, I see way too many ignorant viruses just completely exposed for Human 2020 to invade.
I'm glad you brought that up, because here with me also is a virus that thinks all of this is a hoax. Please welcome to this Doom call, rabies. Fuck you, smallpox.
Rabies,
how are you even still
you
relevant?
little whiny bitch.
Okay, let's be viral here. Now, rabies, you say that we don't need to protect ourselves because Human 2020 only really affects between 1% and 5% of any and all viruses.
Yes. I am 99.9% certain that the Human 2020 has no effect on viruses.
Okay, but what about that 0.01%?
Oh, manufacturers have to say that so other viruses can't sue them.
Rabies, you are so full of crap.
Who you calling Jardia?
Again, let's be viral, please. Now, rabies, is it true that as a herpes supporter, you think the president is doing a great job despite the Centers for Human Control or the CHC's criticism of their delayed action to stop the spread of Human 2020?
Yes. I mean, come on. How much influence has Human 2020 had on your life?
Wow. Rabies, you are so out of touch with reality.
Make the biome great again. Woohoo!
Wow, I'm shocked and amazed. Well, there you have it, Tom. For Channel COVID-19 News, I'm Polio. Back to you, Tom. Wow, how dumb can you really be? Ooh, are we still on? Ugh.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And stay tuned for plenty of other episodes of content.